Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy February. Today we are talking about my favorite things from the month of January. Have to start off by apologizing. This video was actually supposed to go up yesterday as my last video in my full month of nothing new, but I was getting towards the end of editing that video, getting ready to put it up, and realized that I had an entire clip missing of where I talked about the eyeshadow palettes that I was going to talk about. So I am refilming a portion of it today. So if you happen to notice a little bit of difference in the lighting or maybe my hair, it is 2 days dirtier today. It actually I think looks better. It's funny, on camera my hair looks better when it's really dirty, although if you saw it in person it's actually pretty disgusting, but that's alright. I am excited about this one though. I've got some good stuff to talk about. I've got a lot of older favorites that crept into this month's favorites, as you might expect with me doing my full month of nothing new, but I also have a couple things that are newer to me, things that I picked up and tried out during the holiday season, so a good mix of products in here. But I am excited about it. I love filming favorites videos. I hope that you guys are excited about it as well. Before we jump in, I want to welcome any new visitors to my channel. Hope that you enjoy this video, and of course if you do, I hope that you'll consider subscribing. Be sure notifications are turned on so that you know every time I upload a new video. And with that said, let's get into it. So I want to start off with some things from Flower Beauty. Now, I've been a longtime fan of Flower Beauty. You guys might know I have a lot of products from them that have been longtime favorites of mine, but I did try out some new stuff from them in December. They actually sent me a few things, then I also ordered a few things around the same time that they sent me some things. So I had a lot of things I was trying out from Flower Beauty over the last month or so, actually over the last 2 months. And there were some real winners, including this one right here. This is the Flower Beauty Heat Wave Bronzer. This is in a new shade. I actually have the older shade, this one right here. This is the shade Sunswept M1. I really like the formula of this one, but it can be a little bit too warm on me. This is a bronzer that does tend to pull a little orange on my skin tone. And for a long time I had been meaning to pick up the other shade that they have, and it's this one right here. I picked this up in December. This is the shade Sunrise L1. This is a beautiful bronzer, you guys. It's a very unique shade of bronzer. As you can see, it looks very almost ashy in tone, but it has almost like a blush tone to it. So that's kind of what you're seeing right here on my face. It's really, really beautiful. It's not overly cool, but it's also not warm. It's definitely not orange. I almost think it has kind of a rosy shift to it that's really, really flattering on the cheeks. And it is actually quite pigmented. I know it looks pretty fair in the pan, but it shows up pretty strongly on me. So I would say if you have fairer skin even than me, you might want to be pretty light-handed with this, but I do think this shade would also work for those of you that have maybe more medium skin tones or medium to light skin tones. It's just a really, really beautiful bronzer. I will try to swatch it for you guys. I have terrible luck with swatching bronzers. There, okay, that did show up. There it is right there. And let me swatch it next to their other bronzer, which is the shade Sunswept. Hopefully you guys will be able to see kind of the difference. So there's Sunswept right there. So I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this one is quite a bit more orange. This one has such a beautiful tone to it, but I think as far as depth goes, they're pretty similar. It's really just the undertone that's a lot different. This one has a much more golden kind of warm undertone, where this has a more cool or even rosy undertone. Very, very beautiful, great formula. Of all the bronzers I think I've ever tried, this is the one that most mimics the Hourglass formula. It has a perfect level of soft sheen to it that looks really, really nice on the skin. So very excited about that one. It has definitely been my most reached for a bronzer this last month. Also in the newer things I tried out from Flower Beauty. Now these have been around for a while, but I've got to talk about the Flower Beauty Blush Bombs. I featured these in my best cream blushes video that I did this last month. In case you didn't see that one, these actually ranked very, very high in that video, despite the fact that they're newer to me. I have been so impressed with these. Now of all the liquid and cream blushes that I have tried, these are the ones, I would say the only ones that I think apply very, very best with your finger. These are so easy to apply. Why don't we go ahead and try and put a little bit more on? I know I don't really need it, but I just want to show you guys how I like to apply these. So this one right here, this is in the shade Pinched, which is a beautiful, beautiful shade. I would say if you have medium or deeper than medium skin tones, this probably won't show up on you because it's not a super bold shade. But if you have fair skin and you like a kind of peachy toned blush, this is really lovely. So I like to just take a little, I would say half a pea-sized amount of this, and I kind of rub it between 2 fingers, and then I will literally just kind of like tap it on my cheeks just like this, and I'm done. Literally, that is all I do. It takes seconds. It blends into the skin so easily. It looks natural. It has a really nice finish. It's not overly greasy, but it's also not drying. It lasts pretty well on me. I've just been all around very, very impressed with these things. This shade right here is the shade Bubbly, which I also really, really love when I'm in the mood for something a little bit more cool or a little bit more pink. Let me just swatch them both on the back of my hand so you guys can see the difference. I would say I like these shades equally. I think they are both so beautiful. Sorry, I tried to wipe those off. Should have brought a rag down here. Let me see if I can So there are the two shades, Bubbly on the top and Pinch right below it. Really, really lovely. Very impressed with these. Pretty affordable. I think these are only $9 a piece. And if you haven't ordered from Flower Beauty themselves, if you have a couple of things maybe you're interested in, I would get on their mailing list because they seem to have some sort of sale I get an email about every couple of months, and their prices are already pretty affordable in my opinion. But also from them, I've really been enjoying this Gel Crush lip and cheek stick. I love this for my lips. Sometimes I'll put this on when I'm just running out the door or just wanting to look a little bit put together, even when I'm in my house all day alone, you know, wanting to feel like I'm gonna run out the door to do something. This is really pretty. This is my favorite shade. This is the shade Strawberry Crush. I also love this on my cheeks. I love applying this with a brush on my cheeks. Sometimes I will just kind of draw it on like this, but I find it to be a little bit more even when I apply it with a brush. Really cool multi-purpose product. I'm not usually one to love multi-purpose products. At least I don't use them for multiple purposes, but this is one of the few that I actually do. I know I talked about this in my blush video already, but in case you didn't see that one, very impressed with these, and this one in particular I've been getting a lot of use out of. Let me just give it a little swatch here on the back of my hand. There it is right there. That's the shade. It's actually quite similar to Bubbly and maybe just a little bit more kind of glossy in texture. If you like something that's even more hydrating, I think you will absolutely love these. And one more thing from Flower Beauty, I wanted to talk about their lipsticks. I'm a big fan of these. I've actually been a big fan of their lipsticks for a long time. I did pick up a new shade, the shade Peachy Nude. It is the shade I'm wearing on my lips today. I do have some gloss on top, but these are great lipsticks, you guys. I now have 3 shades. I have Peachy Nude, which is right here. I also have the shade Naked Blush, one of my most worn shades from them. I mean, literally, this one's almost gone, which is crazy. I don't run through lipsticks very often. There's the shade Naked Blush, really pretty pink tone nude. And I also have the shade Spiced Petal. That's a really good nude. It's a little bit deeper than these two right here. I don't use that one quite as much. I definitely prefer these two. I've had these on my desk all month. I've been using them regularly. And the formula of these lipsticks, in my opinion, is some of the best out there. They actually remind me a little bit of my Charlotte Tilbury lipstick. I only have one lipstick from Charlotte Tilbury. It's a really lovely creamy formula, but these remind me a lot of that formula. All around, just really great drugstore lipsticks. If you're looking for a really good kind of high-end formula, but not wanting to pay a high-end price, I think this is a good one to look into. Okay, so that is it for Flower Beauty, but sticking with lips, I also wanted to talk about this right here. I know I've talked about this before. This is the Essence Stay 8-Hour Waterproof Lip Liner. I have mine in the shade Because Duh. There was a long stretch of time that I was talking about this liner very, very often, and then I kind of put it away for several months, kind of forgot about it. I pulled it back out this month and was reminded of why I talked about this so much, because this is a really great lip liner. I think of all the drugstore lip liners that I've tried, as far as wear time goes, this one has the best wear time. I still don't think it's quite as good as the Charlotte Tilbury. Honestly, I don't think anything will ever beat the wear time of the Charlotte Tilbury lip liners. They are almost like a tattoo. They stay on your lips so long, but this one does wear really, really well, especially if I'm using a more matte lipstick with it. I find my lip product stays on for hours and hours and hours, even underneath the mask. It just lasts all day long. I absolutely love this. There it is right there. Just a good basic nude. It's a little bit deep, but works well with so many different lip options. I like it with warm tones, with cooler tones. It goes with just about anything, and the formula is great, and it lasts a long time. And it's affordable. Did I say that? You can often find this thing on sale, and even not on sale, I think it's under $5. So definite favorite. Let's get into the brow combo that I have really been loving this last month. So it's kind of a combo of some affordable products and kind of a process that I'm going to talk about. I've talked about this before. This is the e.l.f. I think it's called their Shape and Stay Wax Stick. Always forget the name of this thing. It's basically just a clear stick of wax. So I've talked about this a lot on my channel. I haven't talked about it as much this last year because I found that, and a couple of you brought this to my attention, that this isn't gonna hold your brows in place all day long, which is what I used to kind of use it for, is like a bit of a brow gel or a brow wax, but here's how I like to do it now. So I like to put this in my brows before I put anything else in, and then I will take a spoolie and really spend a couple seconds brushing my brows upright. It does a really good job of kind of training my brows to stay in a direction that maybe they otherwise would not want to go in. And once I have them kind of brushed up, I'll then go in just with an angled brush and with a powder. This is just an old powder from e.l.f. I don't even think they make this anymore, but I'll just take a cool kind of taupey colored powder and fill in a couple of areas. I mainly just fill in right here on the underside of my brow. I have a little bit of sparseness there, and then I kind of fill in around my arch right there, and then I just kind of brush it in and work it in throughout my brows. And then I come in with this right here. This is the ColourPop Brow Boss Clear Gel. I have been loving this stuff lately for this method of doing my brows. It holds my brows in place really, really well. I find that if I use a colored brow gel with this method, my brows can get a little bit too dark. So I like that this doesn't give me any more color, but it just holds my brows. But if you haven't tried this stuff out before, it has a consistency that's almost more of like a kind of a soft hold cream gel. It doesn't make my brows crunchy, but it does hold them in place pretty well. I just have been loving this combination. I think my brows look better than they typically do and hold better than they typically do with a lot of other products that I use. So that's kind of been my go-to this month for my brows, and it's very affordable. I think this is under $5. And this thing right here, I want to say is like $2. Alright, before we get into eyeshadow palettes, I do have quite a few eyeshadow palettes to talk about, but we'll do those last. Quickly before we get into that, I do want to talk about a concealer. This has been a long time love of mine. I don't feel like I've been using it as much or talking about it as much over this last, I would say the second half of this last year, but I've been using it a lot again lately and reminded of why I really love this stuff. It's the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye. I have two shades of it that I have to mix together in different proportions to get my correct match. I have the shade 11 Light Nude and the shade 22.5 Medium Honey. This is such a great concealer, especially for your under eye area. It is a very, very heavy concealer. I would say this is kind of an intimidating concealer because it does not feel like anything else I have in my collection. It's not very liquidy. It's not very lightweight, which I know this sounds great. That's usually how I like my concealers. It is a little bit thick. It is a little bit pasty, but if you really warm it up in your fingers and spend some time working the tiniest amount into your under eye area, it just does something with like the texture of that under eye area that looks really flattering. I would say it makes my under eyes look less aged than a lot of other concealers do. Most other concealers, even the ones that are hydrating, they just, not necessarily that they make my under eyes look worse, but they don't do me any favors, whereas I feel like this one's doing me a little bit of a favor when I use this under my eyes. I kind of get the feeling that this has some sort of like, this might sound like I'm totally making this up, but this is just the way I would describe it. It's almost like flexible with the natural lines that are under your eyes. It doesn't emphasize them, but yet it moves with your natural skin. It doesn't seem to settle into the fine lines. I actually put this on many hours ago. It's actually 3:30 in the afternoon, and I did my makeup at like 9 o'clock this morning. So this has been on for a long time, and it looks incredible. I still have good coverage there. Nothing is settling into my many, many fine lines under here. It's really, really good. I do also use this everywhere else on my face. When I am using it, I'll typically apply it to any blemishes that I have, but it really stands out under the eyes. Let's move into eyeshadow palettes. Now I have 4 palettes that I wanted to mention today. 2 of them are older, I mean significantly older, quite old, and then 2 are a little bit newer. These are newer ones that I tried out during the holiday season. So let's start with the 2 older palettes. And that would be these 2 palettes by Persona. These are so good. I know they have made appearances in many other videos, probably a lot of other monthly favorites videos. I think they made an appearance in at least one year-end favorites videos before, and I think they are both fantastic still. This one right here is the original Identity palette. It does have different packaging now. I have the older version, but you guys, this is probably one of, if not the very best neutral palette in my collection, which I rediscovered this last month. I use this palette quite a bit. I actually had both of these palettes out on my desk and often reach for them, especially on days that I wasn't filming, just for kind of everyday looks. This one is perfect for any level of neutral lover. You get everything in here that you would need to create either a really natural look or even a neutral color but very, very intense kind of smoky look. I would say especially this row down here, these are very, very pigmented, very rich and intense. So if you don't want to go super smoky or dramatic, you want to be very light-handed with these, but I'm telling you guys, this is just such a beautiful palette. I know a lot of you probably are familiar with this one. You've heard me talk about it. I would guess a lot of you own it yourselves. And I think there's a pretty broad consensus that this is a fantastic palette. I don't know that I have ever heard someone come back and say this palette didn't work for them. If that's true for you, let me know down below. But I know I've talked about this several times, and anytime I do, there seems to be a consensus that yes, that is one of the best palettes out there. The shimmers inside here are so amazing. So I'm actually not wearing this palette on my eyes, but I do have this shade, the lightest kind of shimmery ivory right here on my inner lid, on my inner corner. We'll get to everything else that I'm wearing in just a sec, but I just can't say enough good things about Persona's eyeshadows. Feel the same way about the Identity too. While I don't use this one quite as much, I do think if you maybe have an established neutral collection and are looking to kind of branch out into color, I think this is a great one because I love jewel tones. I think they're some of the easiest colors to work into looks if you are not someone that is into bold or intense color. But with that said, there's still a lot of really great staple colors and neutrals in here as well. I would classify pretty much everything on this bottom row as neutral, along with these top 3 right here. And I don't think any of the colors in here are unwearable. I actually love reaching for this palette when I'm wanting to do something a little bit colorful. It's a great one. I love them both. I actually love these palettes together. I think they make really good companion palettes. And I've been using them a lot and having a lot of fun with these. Again, as long as I've had them, I still really enjoy using these palettes. But I also have two palettes from ColourPop to talk about. Both of them are newer to me. Actually, I think both of them are newer in general. First one, this one right here. This is the Raw Beauty Kristi At First Sight palette. Let's just talk about the packaging of this thing, you guys. So incredibly adorable. I feel like it's so very Kristi. If you've been following Raw Beauty Kristi and her kind of story and interest, I think this is very fitting for her. But also the palette inside is a really, really fun one. I mentioned in one of my recent videos, I think the one where I use this palette, that this is a pretty good alternative for the Natasha Denona Safari palette. One of my favorite palettes. I absolutely love that palette. There are a lot of mattes in here. You do get two shimmers, and then this matte shade down here does have some sparkle in it, but it still acts pretty much as a matte for me. I use this the way that I would use any other matte shadow. There's so many beautiful jewel tones in here, good range from light to dark. While you only get two shimmers in here, sometimes I find myself needing to reach for something else if I'm not feeling like reaching for a gold, or this shade right here, which I do really love, is kind of a green toned, gosh, I don't even know what I would call that. It actually reminds me of another shade that we're going to talk about in a sec. Kind of almost a berry tone shift. It's just a really interesting duochrome. I really love that as a lid shade. Love the lighter mattes and also the deeper mattes in here. Really fun palette if you like to play with jewel tones and rich color, which I absolutely do. Really, really great one. But probably one of my favorite palettes this last month that I've been loving so very much, I'm actually wearing this one today, is this palette right here. This is the ColourPop Grandeur palette. I am so impressed with this palette, you guys. I saw that Andrea mentioned this palette in her video as well. And I've got to tell you guys, I'm a big fan of ColourPop. I do like their eyeshadow palettes. I do think they have way too many, and not every single palette of theirs is a standout for me or really hits the nail on the head. This one absolutely does. I love the range that you get in here from light to dark. It does give you one pressed glitter, which I would say 6 months ago would have annoyed me. I'm okay with it now. I have been using pressed glitters more than I used to, and I actually think the reason for that is that I don't go out in public as often, so I feel more comfortable putting pressed glitters on my eyes, which is kind of funny. Who wears glitter around the house? I do. But I have been having more fun with pressed glitters, as long as they're not super chunky and the particles are a little bit more refined, which this one is. A lot of really fun shades in here. This corner shade is kind of a black with this green, very strong sparkle throughout. Look how beautiful that is. Oh my goodness. I mostly use this as kind of a smudgy liner on my eyes. I actually don't have it on today. I'm just wearing this one right here, which is a brown that has a little bit of sparkle throughout. This one I would say doesn't show up as much. It's really just more of a deep, deep chocolatey matte brown, but it's a great one. And this shade right here, you guys, the shade Need, this is the shade that I'm wearing all over my eyelids. It is so, so pretty. It's kind of a blue duochrome with a pink or kind of purple shift. There it is right there. I don't know that you can see the shift in it. Let me swatch it on my hand just so you guys can kind of see. Look at that kind of pinky rose, whereas in the light it has this really strong bluish green shift. It's beautiful. It actually does remind me a little bit of the one in the At First Sight palette, but this one is more of a green shift, whereas the Grandeur palette has more of a blue shift to it. So there's the one in the At First Sight palette. So as you can see, this one is a little bit more green, whereas this one is a little bit more kind of a blue, almost purpley. They're both beautiful. Really, really unique shades, and I would say especially this one right here. I don't have any other shades in my collection that mimic this one. This is very, very unique. And as someone that has tried out a lot of eyeshadow palettes, that has a ridiculous amount of eyeshadow palettes, and I would say even ColourPop palettes, it's hard to find shades that are truly, truly unique, but this is one of those. I just don't have anything in my collection that is quite like this. Really great fun palette all around. The packaging, I mean, just look at this adorable packaging. You've got this kind of navy blue color, these flowers, the gold lettering on it. I'm such a fan of the ColourPop cardboard packaging. I like it so much better than the plastic packaging that they sometimes do. Really fun one. This is another one that's been sitting on my desk a lot this month, and I've really been enjoying this palette. And that is it for my favorite products from the month of January. I want to take a moment and give a huge thank you to those of you that watched my videos this month during this full month of Nothing New. I have so much fun doing this series for you guys. I love being able just to take a month or two. I am planning to do this again in August. To not buy anything, to not be tempted, and just enjoy the makeup that I already have. There is so much out there to get overwhelmed by, and I know I am not the only one that feels this way. Whether you participated or not, I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you guys are doing well. I want to give you one more reminder. If you are not yet subscribed, I hope that you'll consider doing that before you leave. But that's all I have for you guys today. I will see you all in my next one. Bye. A lot of older favorites that crept into this month's favorite. Sorry about the sound, you guys. Or sparkle to it, I should say. No, stay out. No more pears. You already had one. Seriously, this girl, she eats pears like it's going out of style. She can eat 4 pears a day. Gotta keep them locked up and away from her.